Hello everyone. Again, I am present here with the other three topics related to eyelid. First topic is leg ophthalmos, second topic is blepharospasm, and third topic is ptosis. So let us see the first topic, leg ophthalmos. Now what is leg ophthalmos? It is a condition in which the eyelids cannot be closed properly when the eyes are shut. So in this condition the eyelids cannot be closed properly, so the lids will not be able to cover the eyeball completely, and that leads to a condition called as a leg ophthalmos. Now why this condition will be produced? So let's see the causes related to it. It can be due to the congenital causes and it can be due to the acquired causes. Congenitally, if there is a deformity in the eyelid, it will not be able to cover the eyeball properly, and that leads to a congenital leg ophthalmos. In acquired causes, the first cause is paralysis of orbicularis muscles. Orbicularis muscles closes the eyelid, and that is why if there is a paralysis of orbicularis muscles, it will lead to a leg ophthalmos. Second cause, that is weakness of muscles as occurs in deep coma, and the third variety, that is due to the cicatricial contraction of the lids. So if there is a due to the contraction as occurs in the cicatrization, it can also cause leg ophthalmos. In proptosis, if the eyeball is bulging forwards, the eyelids will not be able to completely cover the eyeball, and that is leading to a leg ophthalmos. Now what happens if the person develops the leg ophthalmos? Due to leg ophthalmos, the eyelid will not be completely covering the eyeball, so the eyeball will be not be covered by the film of tear completely, and the eyeball will be exposed to the environment constantly, so that will lead to a dryness in the eye, or it develops a exposure keratitis, and due to this condition it will lead to a exposure keratitis. Usually develops in the lower part of the cornea is affected. Now coming to the treatment part of leg ophthalmos. Now the main condition, as the eyelids are not completely covering the eyeball, there will be a development of dryness. So to remove this dryness, there is application of blend ointment or liquid paraffin during the sleep, which keeps the cornea moist. So that is the first way of treatment. Second way of treatment, that is operative procedure in the form of tarsorrhaphy. In this condition, or in a tarsorrhaphy, the palpebral aperture is narrowed by uniting the margins of the lids on the lateral side. Even central tarsorrhaphy may be also done. Now the next condition of eyelid we are going to study, that is blepharospasm. Blepharospasm is a condition in which lids are firmly closed due to forcible contraction of orbicularis muscle. Spasm is involuntary and may last for few moments, few weeks and months. So what is the important thing here? It is a forcible contraction of orbicularis muscle. It is involuntary and may last for either few moments, for weeks, or it may also persist for month. Now if the person suffers from blepharospasm, what effects it will be producing? The first effect that will be resulting due to blepharospasm, that will be affecting the spasmodic closure of a lacrimal canaliculi, and that results into the production of persistent epiphora. So there will be a constant tearing that is coming from the eye. So first effect, that is persistent epiphora. Due to persistent epiphora, the skin of the lower lid becomes eczematous. So that is the second effect. It can also lead to a edema of lids due to the constant pressure on the palpebral veins, or it can produce entropion, which means the eyelid fold inward, or ectropion, which means eyelid turn outward, especially in the lower lid. So again I am repeating, the effects will be a persistent epiphora, eczematous condition of skin of the lower lid, edema of the lids, or it can produce a entropion or ectropion of lower lid. Now let's see the causes of blepharospasm. The blepharospasm can develop as a reflex sensory stimulation through the branches of trigeminal nerve. Now the reflex sensory stimulation of branches of trigeminal nerve can be produced due to the various condition of eyeball, like flynctinular conjunctivitis, interstitial keratitis, as due to the foreign body, ulcer or erosion of cornea, membranous and pseudomembranous conjunctivitis, or in cases of severe rhinitis and iridocyclitis. So these are the causes in which the reflex sensory stimulation through the branches of trigeminal nerve occur. Other cause that can be due to the excessive stimulation of retina, as occurs in the exposure to dazzling light, or it can develop due to the stimulation of facial nerve, or due to the hysteria. So these are the various causes. Now the treatment here is the treatment of the cause. So you have to find out whether the person is having a flynctinular conjunctivitis, and due to that, if the blepharospasm occurs, you have to treat the flynctinular conjunctivitis. If there is foreign body or ulcer or erosion in cornea, and due to that the blepharospasm is occurring, then in that condition you have to treat the particular condition. So here the treatment will be treatment of cause. Now coming to the third topic, that is ptosis or blepharoptosis. So it is a condition in which there is drooping of the upper lid below its normal position. Now ptosis can be present in the single eye, so it can be unilateral or it can be present in both eyes. So ptosis can be unilateral or bilateral. If the eyelid covers only the half of the eyeball, so that is the partial, or if the eyelid drooping covers complete eyeball, then it is complete ptosis. So the types can be a unilateral or bilateral, a partial ptosis or complete ptosis. Now coming to the causes of ptosis. The causes can be broadly categorized into the congenital and acquired varieties. So let's see first the congenital ptosis. In that, it can develop due to the simple ptosis due to the maldevelopment of levator muscle. So first congenital ptosis can occur due to the maldevelopment of levator muscles. It may be associated with congenital weakness of superior rectus, so that can be another variety. Ptosis associated with the deformities of the eyelid, like epicanthus. We have already seen in the congenital deformities of eyelid. So epicanthus is a condition in which the vertical fold of skin runs from root of nose to the inner end of a lower eyelid. Generally it is a bilateral condition and it is associated with the ptosis. Now the second variety of cause, that is acquired. Under the acquired causes, first group is a paralytic ptosis. The paralytic ptosis can be produced due to the partial or complete third nerve palsy. So third nerve, that is the oculomotor nerve. There may be many causes like vascular ischemia, trauma, intracranial neoplasms, and that due to that the oculomotor nerve paralysis can be produced. So if some of these causes produces third nerve palsy, then it can lead to a paralytic ptosis. The second cause, that is due to the lesion of cervical sympathetic and paralysis of Mueller's muscles. Mueller's muscles are also called as superior tarsal muscle. It is a structural muscle which functions to maintain the elevation of upper eyelid, and it receives innervation from the sympathetic nervous system. So due to the affections of cervical sympathetic, when this paralysis of Mueller's muscles occur, it leads to a production of Horner's syndrome, which is a combination of a ptosis, anhidrosis and meiosis on the affected side of the face. Now the second thing, that is lack of support of the upper eyelid, that can also lead to a acquired ptosis. In that, a condition like microphthalmos, means the eyeball is very small, sunken eyeball, and enophthalmos, which means posterior displacement of the eyeball within the orbit. So that leads to a development of ptosis. The third variety, that is the mechanical ptosis, that will occur due to the increased weight of upper eyelid as a result of edema or inflammation or hypertrophy or a tumor formation. So these are the causes which leads to a increased weight in the upper eyelid and leads to a ptosis. It is also called as a pseudoptosis. Now the fourth variety of the acquired ptosis is myogenic ptosis. It can occur due to the trauma to the levator muscles. It can also occur due to the muscular dystrophy of levator muscle, as occurs in the ocular myopathy, or it can be produced due to the disease like myasthenia gravis. Now myasthenia gravis is a neuromuscular disease, and it leads to a worrying degree of skeletal muscle weakness. It is autoimmune disease that results from antibodies that block the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor at the junction between the nerve and muscle, and this prevents the nerve impulse from triggering the muscle contraction. Now coming to the symptoms and clinical signs that are produced due to the ptosis. Now if the ptosis, the pupil is not covered by the lid, then there will be a no symptom. If due to the ptosis the eyelid covers the pupil, then it will produce a visual disturbance. It may produce clinical signs like margin of upper lid covers more of a cornea than the normal. The palpebral fissure is narrower than the normal. So on examination, palpebral fissure will be narrow. There will be a no fold in the skin of upper lid. On attempt to elevate the upper lid, there is elevation of eyebrow and wrinkling of skin of forehead due to the hyperaction of frontalis muscles. Head is tilted backwards so as to draw lid upwards beyond the pupillary area. And if the patient is asked to look upward while firm pressure is applied to eyebrow, there is very little or action of levator provided. The ptosis is due to the weakness of levator. Now the treatment part of ptosis. So in cases of acquired ptosis, the cause must be treated. So you have to find out whether the ptosis is developed due to the inflammation or due to the tumor of the eyelid, or whether there is due to trauma to the levator muscle, or it is occurred due to the third nerve palsy, or whether the ptosis is developed due to the disease like myasthenia gravis. So you have to find out, and treatment of that cause should be done. And in congenital variety of ptosis, the operative procedure for the correction of deformity that is required. So in acquired ptosis, you have to find out the cause and you have to treat the cause, and in cases of congenital ptosis, the operative correction of deformity that is required. So with this slide I complete my presentation, and thank you for your attention.